Hi, this is Pastor Heather from Berkeley Hills Lutheran Church. I bring you a message for this Sunday in Pentecost, the second Sunday in Pentecost. This is the reading of the Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 9th and 10th chapters. Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and curing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Cananean, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. So I read recently that in response to the COVID-19, the New York City subway system closes down for daily cleaning between 1 and 5 a.m. This is the first time in 115 years that the subway has shut down like this. And it's probably a good thing, given how many people use the subway every day. But closing it in the middle of the night has created an unintended crisis. Over 2,000 homeless people sleep on the trains at night, just riding from stop to stop. For many, it feels safer than the vulnerability of sleeping in doorways or on sidewalks or in the parks. A spokesperson for the group put it simply, "We don't have homes to go home to." It seems to me that there is a problem with any society that has so many people who choose to spend their nights in motion because they have no stable or safe place to lay their head. But compassion rules. Rather than just evicting the homeless from the train cars, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority police have been trained to ask what kind of help they can give. And nurses are available to tend to the sick and the injured. And the Transportation Authority also provides transportation to hospitals or psychiatric units as needed. And staff are directed to show people where shelters are available, even though sometimes shelters are too crowded and too dangerous for some people. But compassion rules. When Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Jesus majored in compassion. Not long before this scene described in today's gospel, Jesus healed a whole array of people. The daughter of the leader of the synagogue, the woman with the hemorrhage, blind men, a fellow who couldn't speak because he was demon-possessed. Jesus felt people's pain and did something about it. I learned this week that compassion, that word, goes way back to an ancient word that means spilling your guts, like literally slicing open and having everything fall out. Kind of gruesome. It's not at all how we understand compassion. But it says that compassion does not come from the head or from the heart. It's gut-wrenching, feeling what others feel from the gut. We tend to soften the word compassion into to suffer with. Someone said sympathy sees and says, I'm sorry. Compassion feels and whispers, I'll help. Jesus was always ready to help, not just shed a tear or think that things needed to change. Jesus had compassion and did something about it. And Jesus took the same thing with his disciples. He deputized them, authorized them, empowered them so that they could do the same. Jesus summoned the 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. Just last week, we heard Jesus say, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Jesus has power to give us power. And what he commands, he empowers. See, Jesus isn't going to tell us to do something we aren't capable of. So our job is to hear his call and trust his word. Jesus also tells his followers to proclaim the good news. And the good news is that the kingdom of heaven has come near. And the signs of the kingdom and the work of the kingdom, they're told to do. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. In other words, love, forgive, reconcile, work for justice, work for peace, provide for those in need. That's what the work of the kingdom is. That is our work too. That is what Jesus empowers us to do. But no one is going to believe any good news that we spout. No one is going to be convinced that God is alive and well, that God cares so much that God sent the Son, that God is willing to forgive and is powerful to save, unless we embody God's love and at least attempt to ease people's suffering. Truth in advertising, being compassionate, always involves doing something. And doing something, acting in love, is not without its risks. Jesus paid the price. He died on the cross. All of his disciples died a martyr's death, except for Judas and his beloved disciple. So I want to share a story told by Henry Nouwen. He's a great 20th century person of faith, a spiritual writer, and a friend of Jesus. This is his story. There was an old man sitting on the banks of the Ganges River in India, doing his morning meditation. When he opened his eyes, he saw a scorpion swept along by the strong current, and it got entangled in the exposed roots of a tree. It was frantically but unsuccessfully trying to free itself. So he reached out to help it, and it stung him. Must have hurt. So he pulled back, and then he reached out again and again, until his hand was covered with blood and swollen like a balloon. A young man came along and said, "Hey, stupid old man, what's wrong with you? Only a fool risks his life for the sake of an ugly, useless creature. Don't you know that you may kill yourself to save that ungrateful animal?" Slowly, the old man turned his head, and looking calmly in the stranger's eyes, he said, "Because it is the nature of the scorpion to sting. So why should I give up my own nature to save?" Nouwen continues, that's the question. Why should we give up our nature to be compassionate even when we get stung in a biting, stinging world? The answer has to be because Jesus calls us to be compassionate, to do something. We are to feel the world's pain and spill our guts and say, "I'll help. We'll help." Amen.